What we're gonna do now is go ahead and install the rail. So, taking apart the Sopmod rail here, it's a little involved, so I'll walk you through the steps. We'll get this Allen key set here. Looks like should be grabbing my 2.5 millimeter, oh no, it's a 2 millimeter Allen key. I'm just going to take off the screw at the very top. That aligns the top of the rail to the delta key, or the delta ring. I'll pull back the delta ring, and with those pieces removed, I can go ahead and take off the entire rail. So we're left with this piece. There is a Phillips head down here. Just need to unscrew that all the way. And then this whole piece moves forward, and that reveals your actual barrel nut. So keep going here. We need to take out these pins. And if you look very closely, you should see a little bit of knurling on one side of the pins. And that's the right side of the gun if you're looking down the barrel. So we'll go ahead and knock those out with my punch set. Alright, so I'm just going to continue along here. There is one other thing I do want to check, and there is a grub screw in the bottom of the front sight post. So we'll always want to make sure to loosen that up. And for good measure, I'm going to remove it entirely. So there it is. All right, there's our pin. And as you can see, if it focuses, but you can see a bit of knurling. Again, it's on the right side of the receiver if you're looking down the sights. All right, let's try that one more time. And there we go, the pin comes right out. So try to use a slightly smaller punch than the actual size of the pin you're trying to take out, but otherwise this will come off. I'm just going to back this off to the muzzle device just to give me enough space. And now I'm going to go ahead and take off the barrel nut. So there's a couple ways you can do this. I do this the no tool way. Make sure to put your bolt in while you're doing this as well. If you put the receivers together without the bolt in, the buffer will spring forward and basically lock your receivers together, and it is an undertaking to undo that. So always close the receiver with the bolt in. So with this all together, I'm going to grab my piece here. Let's see. All right, looks like my hook is going to be the best tool for the job. And what I want to do is just place this on the table here, find a good position. Should be able to just loosen that off. So that was pretty loose. Sometimes it can be pretty tight on there, but it didn't take too much force. And you can see a little bit of red Loctite coming out there. So they tried, but sometimes these things get loose from the factory. All right. So what we'll do here is just tap on the barrel bit, and then that'll loosen the whole thing up. Sometimes the inner barrel gets stuck in there. Not a problem. We'll just pull this bad boy out. Lock back. There we go. And you know what? I'm going to loosen the hop up. Just so that we can get this. What ends up happening is the hop up arm grabs it right here and it doesn't let you take out the barrel. So I do recommend a PDI W-hold bucking for the MWS. It's not necessary, but it does help. So we'll just pull back the small O-ring. We can separate the hop-up halves and pull all the parts off the stock inner barrel. All right, there we go. Don't lose this, try to save that. We'll set away stock inner barrel. And just taking a quick look at the unicorn inner barrel. It doesn't have the same O-ring as a stock one, but otherwise the finish is pretty good. It's got a big wide cut for a bucking, and it's got a really deep crown as well. Just taking a quick look, yeah, these things they've done pretty well so far, and they're pretty easy to get and fairly inexpensive as well. Take off that O-ring, we'll slide that back on later. I'm just gonna preliminarily put this back together. So we'll line up the grooves, grab the nub, place the nub back in place. If you're trying to lift heavier BBs than a 0.25, you may want to consider replacing the arm with a full metal arm. And then we'll put all that back together. Then I'm going to grab my big O-ring, slide it over the top. All right, my GoPro just shut down real quick, but I was just reassembling the inner barrel assembly with the new inner barrel, and looks good. So we'll set that aside and start working on the upper. So first thing you want to take from your stock outer barrel is this brass shim, and grab the O-ring from the outer barrel. So we'll take our new outer barrel assembly here and just reassemble, boom, just like so. And I'm gonna play around a little bit here to figure out exactly what length we're gonna set up, but should have all the parts here. So you can go ahead, skip ahead if you don't wanna see this portion, but if you do, you can stick around. So we got this piece here. And the reason you need to buy a separate extension for these die-tack barrels is because even though it comes with multiple pieces, it's not all the same. It's not actually the same. So it only threads on one extension at a time. You can't actually combine these two extensions. They're different threads. So take a look here. It should come with some shims, which is a nice thing. And you can fine tune this within 1/4 of an inch, which is pretty sweet. As far as I'm concerned. So put that together, put this all together. One's clockwise, one's counterclockwise. These die-tack barrels are kind of weird, but they do get the job done, so I cannot complain. All right, so I'm gonna put the inner barrel in actually at this time. Just slide that in there and sandwich that all together. So I do like how snugly it does fit. So the only real thing that you have to take note of while you're putting this back together is just making sure that the inner barrel and bucking is straight and it's not leaning from side to side. Okay, and then we should be able to just slide on the barrel nut. Just gonna triple check this thing, make sure it's not cross threading at all. It does feel like it's binding up a bit. Okay. Alright, so we'll slide that piece in on there. Drop the barrel nut down in. Alright, let me double check this really quick because it feels like it's binding up. So I just want to make sure I'm not cross-threading anything. Yeah, alright, we're good. It's just a little tight. It might still have some residual stuff on there, but it should be fine. Go ahead and put this all back together. Seems fairly snug now. Let's back this off a bit. Flip this around and let's check. Because I bet you we have some play. Yeah, we have some play in the Alright, so for the Daniel Defense Mad Bull barrel nut, we do need some barrel nut spacers, so I'll have to go get some of those. Alright, so got my barrel nut shim here. So go ahead and take this back off. Alright. So I'm using a pretty thick, I think that's about 2 millimeters. Just drop it on there, cinch it down, and that should give us all the proper goodness. Yep, that's nice and tight on there. And so we just want to torque down the barrel now. So here, I'm gonna double check the hop up to make sure it's straight. It looks like it's a little bit off this side. And then just to triple check, gonna look down the upper. And it looks reasonably straight. Not the best, but I'm gonna put some hop on it though, just to make sure that that nub is straight. Yeah, so it's still off this side, so I'm gonna play with this a bit more and just make sure it's all tuned out. And again, I'm just smacking the outer barrel to loosen it up off the receiver. There we go. And what that allows me to do is just make sure that we're positioned properly. All right. Okay. So this time I'm gonna provide counter clockwise tension while I spin the barrel nut on clockwise. Okay. I'm just gonna try to keep it from spinning as best as I can. It's not gonna be perfect, but we could strive for it at least. Looking a lot better down in there. All right. Now I'll go ahead and try to torque it down. Making sure we look pretty centered. And then I'm just doing another visual check here. Looks pretty good. Not quite perfect, but he'll be changing out the bucking anyway, so it's not the end of the world. But it'll be good enough to be effective on the field with. One other thing that's a little weird with these Daniel defense rails is that the barrel nut does kind of preclude you from opening the receiver sometimes. So even a bigger shim, bigger barrel nut shim will actually help you open up the receivers. But it's not a major issue. So, moment of truth here. And we are almost there. So I think I'm gonna put the 1/2 inch spacer, and this is what it was all about. Figure out exactly how much space we need for the muzzle device. And it looks like it's gonna be that 1/2 inch spacer for the outer barrel. So bust that out of the packaging. You can tell 1/2 inch printed right on there. The main threads, lefty-loosey. Take that off. Slide on our spacer. Put this back on. Tighten it all down as tight as you can get it. This does have a tendency to come loose when you're taking on and off tracers, so just keep that in mind. But go ahead, thread in these bolts, and we'll see what this looks like. And especially with these Daniel defense rails, it does help a lot to have ball end Allens, so that you don't mark up your rail too much while you're putting these on. The one thing that sucks about these Daniel defense rails is that 6-bolt lockup on the hand guard to that barrel nut. All right, there we go. It's a little fidgety process lining up rails. It does help if you just have like a riser or a red dot to help you kind of align that on the sight itself. This should be good enough. And there we go. So I'm just gonna grab a muzzle device here to give you an idea. So with a Warden clone here, we've got that rail on there. Not bad. Not bad at all. Right on. All right. So that's gonna be the end here for this video. I'm gonna shoot a separate video here, putting in the trigger guard and the trigger itself. But yeah, looking good. Just need some accessories and be right as rain. Thanks for watching. All right, I lied a little bit here. I'm just gonna go ahead and get this trigger guard out of the way, because I think this is something that a lot of people want to change out. So there's a couple caveats that I want to mention here. But sometimes you can run into trouble, yeah, with these tabs. It's cast aluminum, so it ends up being a little bit soft. Alright, so it seems like I'm gonna have to use the full-size one here. You just gotta be careful though. Just take your time. These ears are pretty soft. Alright, there we go. So here's our roll pin. And this other side should just need to be pressed in, and it's captive with a spring. I'm just gonna put this back together really quick here, that we don't lose it. So that's the trigger guard that is made out of pot metal or zinc alloy. And we'll go ahead. So this is an EMG Strike Industries trigger guard. and it is actually made for the MWS, so it does just drop right in. No modification needed. However, if you're putting a Magpul trigger guard on an MWS, it does require some modification. Go ahead and check out the other video that I posted talking a little bit about that, but long story short, you'll need a Dremel or a file and you'll have to do some fitting to get that all together. But this EMG Strike Industry one does actually just drop in, which is nice. So simple as that. And there you go. Put a little bit of flair. More flair to come with the trigger unit that we're putting in there. All right, that's it for real this time.